What if you and your friends went out on a trekking trip deep into the forest? Imagine being surrounded by breathtaking waterfalls, tall mountains, and stunning valleys. But hidden in this forest, there's a sinister presence, something that begins hunting your friends down, one by one. And eventually, you too come face to face with this nightmare, something that's neither human nor animal. So, what is this terrifying entity? That's what you'll discover in this story. The movie is called Loop Track. As the film opens, we see a man named Ian, who has just arrived in the wilderness of New Zealand. He parks his car in a remote spot, and when he checks his phone, he notices several missed calls. He ignores them, grabs his gear, and begins his hike into the forest. But Ian's appearance feels a little odd. His clothes don't look like something anyone would actually wear for trekking. The journey quickly exhausts him, yet he refuses to give up and pushes himself forward. Eventually, he comes across a signboard that reads, "Next cabin, 9 hours away." This frustrates him, but with no other choice, he gathers his courage and continues on. After a few more hours of walking, he finally stops to rest and checks his feet. He finds rashes forming, so he wraps them with bandages before starting again. Even though his trek had only just begun, his condition was already deteriorating. As he continues, he suddenly spots a couple in the distance. The sight makes Ian nervous, and he hides in the bushes, spying on them. From his behavior, it seems obvious. This is a man who avoids people and prefers being alone. He's exactly like me. But when that couple stood there for hours, taking pictures nonstop, Ian realized they weren't going to leave anytime soon. So, he decided to move ahead, cutting through the bushes. Now, Ian sits down for a moment and pulls out some food from his bag. Just then, another hiker named Nick shows up. Nick was a loud, talkative kind of guy, and as soon as he arrived, he started asking Ian all sorts of questions. But since Ian was already exhausted, he didn't bother responding. Instead, he quietly picked up his stuff and started walking ahead. Still, Nick somehow managed to convince him, "Hey man, let's walk together, it'll be fun." Throughout the trail, Nick kept on chattering, while Ian stayed silent, listening quietly as he moved forward. After hearing Nick's endless rambling, Ian finally said, "Look man, I need to pee and I want some privacy." But Nick, being shameless as ever, didn't get the hint. He turned around and stood in such a way that basically said, "Go ahead, take your piss." Anyway, after trekking for several more hours, they finally reached a cabin. Once there, Ian again insisted that he wanted to move on to the next cabin. But Nick explained that the next one was at least a full day's journey away, so Ian had no choice but to stay there for the night. When they went inside, they found the same couple already there, Monica and Austin. Nick quickly bonded with them, chatting easily. Later that night, Ian was in the kitchen frying some meat. Just then, Nick walked in. Seeing him, Ian got nervous and pulled the meat off the pan half-cooked. Nick found this behavior odd and told him, "Dude, let it cook properly first." So Ian put the meat back on the pan to cook again. But this time, the clumsy guy burned it. And then the fire spread through the kitchen, terrifying Ian. Luckily, Nick, Monica, and Austin rushed in and helped him put it out. Embarrassed by his mistake, Ian quietly grabbed his things and walked out of the cabin. But as soon as he stepped into the darkness, he saw something horrifying lurking out there. Shocked, he hurried back to the cabin and told Austin everything. Austin brushed it off, saying, "I think you're just mistaken." After that, everyone went to bed. But Ian couldn't sleep at all that night. Whatever he had seen had left him shaken. The next morning, Monica asked him if something was bothering him. Ian slowly nodded yes. Nick, however, wasn't angry at all about Ian's strange behavior from the night before. In fact, he reassured him, "Hey man, no worries. Now the four of us will hike together and have a good time." Ian didn't really like the idea, but when Nick gave him a good pair of socks to help with the rashes on his feet, Ian unwillingly agreed to go along. The group packed their things, set off into the forest, and kept telling stories along the way. Ian, meanwhile, kept moving silently. His only goal was to reach his destination and finally get rid of these people. After a while, the group stopped near a river to rest. During the conversation, Monica mentioned how strange it was that they hadn't seen a single bird in the forest so far. Austin added that he had in fact seen a dead bird the other day. But they all chose to ignore it and instead started asking Ian about his personal life. Ian admitted that he used to be married, but now he was alone. When they pressed for more details, he excused himself by saying he needed to pee. As he walked into the forest, his eyes caught a tree with bloodstains and claw marks on it. The sight frightened him, and he quickly returned to the group to share what he'd seen. But they dismissed it, saying it was probably just an animal. The group resumed their journey, walking for hours through the forest. Ian grew increasingly uneasy. At one point, when he looked back, he felt as if someone was following them. He told the others, but when they turned around, no one was there. By the evening, they reached another cabin where they planned to spend the night. But there, they found 2 women's backpacks already placed inside, though the women themselves were missing. This sight immediately unsettled Ian again. A little while later, they discovered a guitar in the cabin. Nick, Monica, and Austin began singing and dancing around, while Ian sat silently by the fire. That night, Ian sat in the living room, lost in terrifying thoughts. Slowly, he moved toward the door, just as Nick suddenly shined a flashlight right in his face, startling him. Nick grew concerned and asked, "Hey man, are you okay?" Then, out of kindness, he gave Ian a sleeping pill, saying, "I know how hard it is to separate yourself from your past." Finally, Ian opened up a little. "I'm exhausted. I want peace. I can't sleep anymore, but this place, Mike, it's too quiet. So quiet that now my own thoughts are driving me crazy." Nick encouraged him. "Drink some water. Try to get some rest." Later, when Ian went into the bedroom, his eyes fell on those women's backpacks. Curious, he opened one and found a camera. As he checked it, he saw footage of 2 girls happily hiking. But then, one picture made him freeze. There was a strange shadow in the frame. Looking closer, he realized it wasn't just anyone. It was Nick's shadow. The discovery terrified him, and he collapsed on the living room floor in panic. The next morning, he woke up wrapped in a sleeping bag on the ground. Monica came in and asked why he was sleeping there. Ian told her, "Nick gave me some sleeping pills last night." Just then, Nick and Austin walked in. Nick looked at him in confusion and said, "I never gave you any pills, man. I just threw a blanket on you so you'd be more comfortable." Ian didn't believe him. He picked up the camera and claimed Nick was with those 2 girls too. But when he tried to turn it on, the battery was dead. Still, Ian insisted, "Nick killed those girls. Last night he drugged me because I was getting too close to the truth." Nick grew angry and shouted, "Why are you saying this? Don't put false blame on me." But before the argument could escalate further, the 2 hiker girls returned to the cabin, alive and well. The truth was out, and Ian was humiliated for accusing Nick. Ashamed, Ian quietly packed his things and left the cabin. But a short while later, guilt overwhelmed him. He returned, apologized to Nick, and Nick, without holding any grudge, accepted his apology as if nothing had happened. The group continued their trek. At one point, the trail split in 2. The couple wanted to see a waterfall, while Nick and Ian preferred to continue through the forest path. They decided to split up and meet at the next cabin. Ian and Nick followed the forest trail but soon got lost. At one point, Nick nearly stepped into a hidden bear trap, but Ian pulled him back just in time. They kept searching for the right path, but soon Nick's stomach started hurting badly, so they stopped to rest. Meanwhile, Ian once again felt like someone was watching them. He saw that same dark shadow he had noticed before. Nervously, he asked Nick if he could see it too, but Nick replied, "No, I don't see anything strange." Suddenly, they heard the sound of rushing water, and they headed toward the waterfall. But Ian's anxiety grew stronger. He felt something terrible was about to happen. Nick tried to calm him down. "Relax, man, nothing's wrong." He handed Ian a flashlight and said, "Here, take this. Let's keep going." By now, night had fallen, and the forest looked even more menacing. Out of nowhere, Ian stumbled on a rock and fell. His flashlight rolled away. Nick told him, "Man, that flashlight was expensive. Go grab it." Though frightened, Ian gathered his courage, went to pick it up, and the moment he did, he saw that same dark shadow again. Terrified, he panicked and ran, eventually stumbling back into the rest of the group. Breathless, he shouted, "Did you see that thing? It's been following us." Seeing his condition, the others concluded that Ian's mind wasn't in the right state anymore. Later, they reached another cabin. Austin, Monica, and Nick discussed the situation. They decided Ian was no longer fit to continue the trek and that, for his safety, Nick should accompany him back. They explained their reasoning to Ian, who reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Ian and Nick began their hike back. After walking for a while, they stopped to rest. Ian apologized. "I'm sorry, man. Because of me, you have to cut your trek short." Nick laughed and said, "Don't worry, buddy. I was planning on heading back anyway." Ian then asked quietly, "Am I really going crazy? Why do I keep seeing these things?" Nick was about to answer when his stomach started hurting again. Without saying much, he walked into the bushes, leaving Ian alone. Once again, Ian began hearing strange noises. When he went to check, what he saw horrified him. Around the same time, Monica and Austin were returning on the trail and spotted Ian running in terror. He screamed, "That thing killed Nick! It ate him!" Austin and Monica didn't believe him. Monica suggested they return to the trail, but Ian warned them not to, insisting they should go in another direction. The couple stepped aside to talk, and Austin pulled a knife from his pocket, telling Ian, "We're going on alone now. If you follow us, think twice." Ian stood frozen, not knowing what to do. A short while later, Austin and Monica stopped to drink water. Suddenly, something struck Monica's back, making her spit blood, and a powerful force dragged her screaming into the forest. Shocked, Austin shouted her name and ran after her. There he spotted Ian hiding behind a tree. Enraged, Austin grabbed him, demanding, "What did you do to her? Tell me now!" Ian pointed to an open clearing. There lay only half of Monica's body. Austin rushed to her remains, breaking down in grief. Overcome with rage, he attacked Ian. Ian ran, but along the way a bear trap lay hidden. Ian managed to leap over it, but Austin got caught. At that moment, they both saw it. The terrifying creature, a massive black bird like some mythical beast, dragging Monica's body into the woods before vanishing. Ian and Austin ran until they stumbled upon a small cabin in the middle of the forest. Austin collapsed onto a bed, while Ian searched desperately for something to defend them with. He found an axe, gripped it tightly, and kept his eyes on the door. Austin weakly said, "I'm sorry, man. I thought you were crazy." Ian replied, "It's okay. I thought I was crazy too." Suddenly, loud banging shook the door. A shadow appeared behind it. Ian tightened his grip on the axe and stepped forward. But then the door burst open and the monstrous creature stormed inside. It was massive, towering, and menacing. Slowly, it advanced toward Ian. But just then, Austin grabbed something and hurled it at the creature's head. Distracted, the beast turned on Austin, slamming him to the ground. Yet Austin didn't back down. He fought with everything he had to keep the creature from tearing him apart. Ian rose, raised the axe, and charged to attack. But before he could strike, the bird-like monster bashed him into the wall with its head. Then it turned back to Austin, its claws pinning him down with brutal force. Austin's eye was ripped out, killing him instantly. After that, the monster let out a loud scream, almost as if it was celebrating. Then, its attention turned toward Ian. The beast lunged at him, but Ian quickly dodged, and this time, the bird's beak got stuck deep in the ground. Ian seized the moment, grabbed something nearby, and smashed it against the bird's face. But before Ian could run, the creature attacked again, slamming into the wall. Ian grabbed its beak with both hands, holding on with everything he had. The monster lifted him off the bed, trying to fling him around. In one desperate attempt to survive, Ian shoved his fingers deep into the creature's eyes. The beast screeched in agony and bit down on his hand, but Ian, using his other hand, clutched its throat and held on. After a brutal struggle, the monster collapsed, unconscious, and Ian, broken and in shock, sat there crying through the night. By morning, rain poured down. Ian started making his way back, but when he reached the trailhead, he broke down, sobbing loudly. Suddenly, he felt drops hitting his face, only to realize they weren't raindrops, but blood. Looking up, he saw the lifeless body of a girl hanging from the tree above. Terrified, Ian stumbled back, only to see that the bird was still alive. It hadn't fully died. Horrified, Ian turned and ran down the trail, exhausted and drained. But when he looked back, the creature came for him again. He caught its beak, but it slipped and drove into his leg. The monster attacked a second time, its beak tearing into his clothes. Ian tore his shirt off and sprinted toward the parking lot. He tried to open his car, but the door was locked. Desperate, he ran barefoot down the road until he spotted a car approaching in the distance. The driver stopped, and that's how Ian's life was finally saved. In the end, Ian was the only one who managed to escape the forest alive. But who this bird-like monster really is, and where it came from, that will be revealed in the next part of the movie, which hasn't been released yet. And friends, how did you like this video? Let us know in the comments.